You are listening to the Brain Software Podcast emanating from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I am Fritz Thompson, and today Jeff Mandel and I are going to unpack cool stuff about reframing your life, building systems that work for you, and more hypnotic stuff. So keep listening or watching from wherever in the world you are.
Disclaimer, everything we discuss in this podcast is stuff we actually do, and we highly recommend that you too discuss doing the stuff you actually do. Lucci.
Yeah, how are you tonight? Thanks once again. Well, up here in Meaford, the sun's shining, the snow's melting, and Halloween's on its way, which leads me to ask the pertinent question of the hour when the winter comes back and the sun leaves for another 9 months. Whatever happened to that yard full of soggy cardboard human litter boxes that Eddard and Duder made for the Shizjig Corporation?
These are days of victory. So wash those hands for supper, polish that lighthouse, put on a big how you doing smile, and join the local town council in making a few dozen new bylaws that all Grey County can and will safely ignore. And welcome to the Enjoy-agon, the former backgammon champion of Meaford, Ontario, who believes, like his father did, that most problems can be solved by drinking orange pekoe tea. Because he's the Keith Richards of hypnosis, Mike Mandel, everybody.
Show, you can call me Jeff.
And in case you're just first listening, yes, it's not actually Jeff Mandel or Fritz Thompson. We just say that because it's fun.
No, see, you've explained it now. And
I know.
It's lost all the impact.
I know, but there's new listeners, and they're going to go, I didn't know his name was Fritz. That's weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's just what accidentally I was called once, and it's stuck and it's funny. So Fritz Thompson, Jeff Mandel, otherwise the Mike and Chris show. Here we go.
All right, the Chris and Mike show. Now
Chris
look,
and Mike, that's
let's
right.
get through our usual banter. Talk about what's coming up next
Oh
month.
my goodness, it is. By the time this podcast goes live in about 2 weeks from now, so it'll be 2 weeks before our Architecture of Hypnosis in Toronto, which is November. I believe we start November 6th, if that's the Monday. 5 days of awesome hypnosis training, hanging out with us, hanging out with
Best
Timothy
week of your
September.
life.
It's a blast. You're going to learn ridiculously awesome hypnosis skills, become super confident doing hypnosis anytime, anywhere, practically on anybody who's a willing subject without having to go read those boring and durative scripts at people. We don't even say reading scripts to people. It's like reading freaking at people, and it sucks. Don't do it.
Brilliant.
Okay.
So come on out. Yeah, you can find the link on our website. And let's get the think tank words, which of course I could not generate with the Sabo Book of Think Tank because I don't have it at my cabin. So we did it online with a random word generator. Here's our three, and then we'll unpack them as we go. Number one is investment. Number two is attention, as in faites attention, mesdames et messieurs.
Oui.
Oh, Canada, we're bilingual here. And finally, assistance.
Or assistance.
So take it away.
All right, investment. Well, there you go.
That comes from the root word vest.
yeah,
To invest in something is to wear a vest for that task.
Does it really?
No.
That's hilarious. Okay. Investment makes me think about how, actually, this works really nicely in with the topic of reframing. We're continuing our discussion on reframes a little bit today. And a lot of the times people think of something being a tax or an expense or a hassle, maybe, because I'm using the term metaphorically, like a tax of time. You know, this is a big tax on my time, or this is a big waste of my time. And it is often useful to think of it as an investment in your time. If you practice something, you're investing time to get better at it, right? So, you know, Johnny's parents go, you're wasting all your time playing guitar. Turns out to be the lead guitarist of AC/DC or something. Probably was a worthwhile investment in the end.
That's a good point. I like that, investing your time. That's a powerful one. So we'll get that in. What about attention? What I think of right away is where we put our attention has a powerful effect, whether we're doing hypnosis, whether we're trying to, and succeeding in, improving our lives, whatever we're doing, the attention. And we say intention follows attention.
Good point. And you know what? Attention can be on a thing, like I can be focused over here right now, or this area of my life, or this thing that I'm working on, this project. But it can also be the stuck state of the past or the current.
Right,
I can be focused, my attention is focused on the problem right here in front of me, or my attention, through empowering questions that we often use, can be focusing on the after state, after we solve this problem and implement this process. attention on the desired state.
On the desired state.
Get people out of their crap, right?
That's different than attention, like tension.
Yeah,
it's a different spelling. Attention, like if someone had something like torsion of the testicle, that would be the wrong kind of
disenfranchisement.
No, disenfranchisement.
Right.
And
not good.
Now, what about assistance?
Well, assistance can be
You're
assistance.
like this, like you're about to stand up.
Yeah, ANCE, assistance, help, in other words, or assistants, plural. You can just change it to assistants. People who help you, either help that you get or people who help you in life. Both are kind of the same thing in a way. So assistants, you don't do everything on your own. Remember, you are always the one-man show, right? And then we teamed up, and at some point you reframed, hey, it's way better to have somebody you're working with. Collaboration is awesome. So that's what has made our business so freaking fun, because never do we feel we're just on our own doing this.
That's right. And even now is an investment in our time. So
with our attention on hypnosis and reframing.
And we don't need any assistance because we're doing everything here.
All right.
So let's get our discussion points. Let's talk about reframing.
Before we do, welcome if you're new to listening to the Brain Software Podcast, watching the Brain Software Podcast. We often talk about hypnosis, but also personal development and
NLP.
Ridiculous stuff and NLP. And so you will probably pick up hypnosis bits, but what we want you to start realizing is hypnosis is kind of everywhere. So we don't always formally talk about hypnosis on this podcast, but almost everything has hypnosis
because
built
so
in.
much is hypnotic. Right. I mean, it really is, whether you're watching
All
television
right,
or
now we can do this.
We're going to talk about reframing. Let's look at the classic NLP reframing first, which is the one I was very, very familiar with, being an NLP trainer, as I am. For instance, the whole idea of a context reframe and a content reframe. A content reframe looks at the content of something and
applies one meaning or another.
To
like
it.
a filter.
So what's a different meaning we could apply to this? And the old one is the footprints meant this instead of this. And the other is context, which is the reframe is what context would this behavior be appropriate or better? So, but today we're looking at a different one where you can do this in a very loose way. And it comes out of our In Between podcast a while back.
Yes. A couple of weeks ago, we released an episode where we did an In-Betweener episode, and we interviewed Scott Adams, the author of the Dilbert cartoon series, but he's also an entrepreneur. He's also a personal development author and a hypnotist. He wrote a great book called Reframe Your Brain, and we started the discussion there. And in fact, I would say out of those 160 or so reframes, they were pretty much all content reframes. That's how much content there is to reframe in life, right? Not context reframes, which are about the meaning of something in a different context.
Right. And when we change it, and the classic example from my own life, just to get a feel for this, is I always said, I'm a stage hypnotist. I'm a stage hypnotist. I said that for years. And the problem with that is the market, after me having it all to myself for years, Canada-wide, or pretty close to just me, it began to get flooded with bargain basement hypnotists who go in for, in one guy's case, just the price of a hotel room. He just desperately wanted to be on stage.
Do it for $100.
Yeah, like how do you compete with that? Well, I was thinking because it was I was the premium product, but you could get some dick to do hypnosis much cheaper. And then one day I read Marilyn Vosavant, who was at the time the smartest person in the world, and she talked about just different ways of looking at things. And I suddenly came out of it and I went, wait a minute.
Chunked up.
I'm not a stage hypnotist. What's an example? What's that an example of? It's an example of communication.
Now that's a content.
I am a communicator.
That is a content
changing
reframe.
The meaning of the content and what I do. I'm a communicator. That opened doors. I became a keynote speaker. I became a wine writer. I became an opera critic, a forensic hypnotist. All of these things because I'd reframed myself as a communicator. Just doing that opened this vast vista. And we got to keep it moving.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to very quickly throw out there. The other one is the context reframe. And often the example you throw out is if you paint your face blue and run around screaming, you get thrown in a lunatic asylum or something. But if you do that at a Maple Leafs game at whatever they call the Air Canada Centre these days, I don't know. But at the hockey forum, that's perfectly normal. So context reframe, that's the other one.
Behavior normal.
All right, so now
notice that a lot of these statements, like I'm a communicator, work with identity statements too. And your identity is going to change everything below it, your beliefs, and your activities and abilities and so on. So the key is find a reframe that works for you. And here's the beauty of it. It's not a universal. It doesn't have to be a universal. It's not going to apply to every single person. You can find a reframe that is specific for you.
You can. So what do you think is a useful reframe?
I gave the example. I'll repeat it because it's a good one. I hated working out, and it was always, okay, I've got to do a workout. I'm going to do a workout. I'm going to do a workout. And to me, being a Brit, I love Royal Marines because they're not big and muscular like American soldiers.
Mean,
they're
machines.
Lean and mean.
Yeah.
And so I started saying to do my workout like a lean, mean Royal Marine. And I like that. And they started got me in gear. Now I'm doing my workout.
I also, what I really like as a reframe, I should work out. And if you say I should, that probably means you ain't going to do it.
Right.
Because shoulds are not musts and musts are not going to turn into wills. So how do you take I should work out? Well, but I don't like lifting weights. Fine. Your reframe was I love this. The exercise that's best is the one you'll actually do.
Yeah, the best exercise for you is the one you'll do. And it wasn't me. Somebody else said that. But it's a great one.
Yeah.
Because, over the years, you should skip. You should add that. You should do this. You should. And I said, no, I'm going to stick with what I do because it works for me.
And you know what's working for me? It's working for you, too. I know we're doing a lot of walking, not together, but my wife and I are going for regular walks at night in the later afternoon when the sun's still shining. It's really nice. It's been a beautiful October here in this area. We go for nice walks. I walk now instead of just I need to catch up. I know it can be a time waste, but for business purposes, we're on a lot of social media. Right, and if I need to catch up, what I hate is sitting there realizing I'm wasting my time. Yeah. So now I'll just grab my phone or something, go out for a 4 or 5K walk and handle a bunch of stuff while walking. It works really well. Nice. The other thing is, from a cardio perspective, what works for me? The things that I'll actually do. What do I like to do? Ride my bike and walk. What do I hate doing? Running. So I'm never going to frame myself or label myself as a failed runner or, no, I'm a great walker.
Oh, that's a good one. And speaking of which, and I like to do my walking in the morning after I do my combat conditioning because then I've got, a glucose drop and I'm starting to burn fat and I do like a 5 miles. But you know what happened the other day, Chris?
You fell?
No, this is very interesting. I'm walking by myself and what is on the path, the road ahead of me early in the morning? A bear's footprints.
Oh, awesome.
And they were big.
Yeah.
And he just walked across that road out of the mud and they were fresh.
Yeah.
And then 2 nights ago, we get on the beach and guess what we find the next day? A wolf's footprints.
Oh, nice.
And there is one in the area.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. That's nothing to do with reframing. Now, I could have reframed it and I could have framed it as, there's wolves and bears. This place is dangerous. I'm not coming back. But instead it's this
nice
is thriving wildlife.
Nature. Yeah, it's great to be out in nature.
So when you've got a good reframe for you, you'll know because you'll get a kinesthetic response.
Right.
So when I say lean, mean like a Royal Marine, I know I'm 70 years old. I'll never be a freaking Marine. But I get a good feeling from that tells me this reframe is here at home.
Which brings me to that. In Scott Adams' book, what he talks about is the reframes don't have to be true at all.
They don't even have to
They just have to work for you.
Yeah, that's right. It's utility. It's the fact that the test of a model is its usefulness, John Grinder. Now, find some reframes for your own life. Find things that are a certain way. I know one guy, and I'm not going to say who it is, but he's in this room right now. And he was getting pissed off with his wife over a number of things, including how she thought of his and treated his brilliant backgammon ability. And it was turning into arguments and stuff. And instead of she's on my case all the time, which is a very tempting thing to say. She doesn't get it. She's on my case. The reframe was, she's the love of my life.
Yeah.
And man, oh man, did that change everything for that guy. Guy.
Yeah, for that guy. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Actually, it's a very useful reframe if you were to think about reframe. It's very useful to reframe your husband, wife, whatever, the most important person in my life.
Yeah.
Right? And a funny thing, my parents taught me this.
Uh-oh.
Your spouse is the most important person in your life, not your children. Because your children are going to grow up, they're going to leave the house.
Yeah, they're designed to get away from you.
If you did not weed that garden metaphorically, right, and keep that relationship good, your kids are gone. They're going to come visit, come out for Sunday night dinners and stuff.
Back in.
But they're going to become adults that have their own lives.
Yeah,
you're going to be living with your spouse. You need to make sure that spouse is seen in his or her own mind as the most important person in your life.
Otherwise you won't know each other. Be sitting on opposite sides of the room. Hey, let's add one more, and then we're going to get on to lying under hypnosis.
Oh, yeah. We got a bunch of stuff.
So this whole reframe thing, here's a good one. And this is Chris's mom's reframe. I've heard it before, but I just so associate it with her. Whenever someone tries to triangulate you, you should do this. You should call him. You should drive to Toronto 2.5 hours and take this guy out for supper, whatever it is. As soon as they impose their model on you, Not my circus, not my monkeys. That's the reframe.
Yeah. Not my circus,
it's
not
a different
my monkeys.
Circus and monkeys.
I don't even know where she got that, but it's brilliant.
We've even got it as a fridge magnet.
I remember, your wife found the fridge magnet with that on it, which
bought
was
it from your mom.
Brilliant. Yeah.
What about lying under hypnosis? Do you want to pre-frame all this?
Yeah. So inside of the MMHA Engage Facebook group where all our members hang out, a gentleman had posted a really entertaining video demonstration.
Yes.
It was excellent. So hats off to you, Matthew. Did a great job. And he had a friend there, and he had set up a list in advance of questions that he would ask the subject in the trance state while hypnotized. And he would either tell the truth to the question or lie to the question. So he had either the truthful answer or the lie answer. And he just, after he did the hypnosis and gave the direct suggestion that you won't be able to lie every single time you try to lie. If it's a one-word answer like yes, you'll just stutter on the first letter. You won't be able to actually say it. But, of course, you'll be able to speak totally normally when you're telling the truth. So you won't be able to lie. And then he asks him a bunch of essentially innocuous questions. Very, very, very fun, though. And it seemed like a good, genuine, unconscious stuttering that was happening whenever he was instructed to lie. So the question becomes, does this become evidence now that somehow in hypnosis you can use your hypnotic powers to make people tell the truth all the time?
Right.
Or anything like, could you use this forensically?
Right.
Did you kill that person or did you commit this armed robbery?
Right.
No.
Well, let me answer that because I actually got asked to do this once,
right.
as you know. Mm-hmm. It was Kingston, Ontario. I was performing at Stages, which was a nice bar there. As I was
still is. Yeah.
Is it still there?
Yeah, still there.
So I was
still where the kids go.
As I was going to go in, I got called aside by a guy. I said, Mike Mandel. And rough-looking guy, looked like a biker. He said, I need to talk to you. And we step around the corner at this alley, and he flashed his ID. It's a police officer undercover. There's three of them.
I'm detective.
But they are from another city.
Yeah.
And they are there, seconded there because they're not known there. They all look like bikers. And they said, there's a guy going to be at the show tonight. He's very likely to volunteer. We know this guy is a criminal. And we want to know if you can get him backstage afterwards, hypnotize him, force him to tell the truth so we can interview him. I said, no, it's not possible. First of all, it's unethical.
Yeah.
Second, it just won't work. When we look at the video online that this man posted,
which again was very entertaining. Good job.
But it's nothing to do with forensic hypnosis. Right. What you're dealing with is a consensual state.
Consider it an entertainment hypnosis.
Dave Ellman said, and he's right, hypnosis is a consent state. They have to consent to being in trance. And if at any time they don't like it, they will simply terminate the trance or refuse to comply with the suggestion. You can no more force someone to tell the truth under hypnosis than you can force someone to tell the truth in day-to-day life. That's what thiopentyl sodium is for. It's what people would give the so-called truth serum to people. But hypnosis, even things like the Reed method of interrogation. And Chris, I've been asked to consult on 3 murder cases, armed robberies, sex offenses, all kinds of things by the police. And you cannot get someone to tell the truth or resist lying. People still have the choice of whether or not to accept a suggestion.
Yeah.
Erickson himself said, it's a myth that hypnosis increases suggestibility. All it does is increase potential suggestibility, but the subject still
making the choice
whether or not they choose.
There's I don't remember if this is in Erickson's collected papers or elsewhere, but you'll probably remember where this was. The story about Erickson working with a woman, and I think it was part of, as often was the case, group demonstration in front of an audience. Not a group demonstration, but a demonstration in front of a group. And he was working with a woman that he had worked with before, and somehow he sensed some hesitation in her and looked down and realized she wasn't wearing a wedding. I'm using the wrong figure. Wasn't wearing a wedding ring anymore. And so
I think it was an engagement ring.
It might have been engagement. That's it. It was a ring of some sort. And so he took a little, maybe like a napkin or something, and twirled it up and wrapped it around his ring finger as if it was a ring and let it fall to the ground.
Discarded it.
As an indication, I recognize that you're not wearing that ring anymore, and I'm not going to ask you about it. This is not going to come up.
And then she was a good subject again.
Exactly. Key being, people are not going to be willing to, let's say, disclose that they've been, I don't know, unfaithful, or that they stole from their employer, or whatever bad stuff people wouldn't want you to know about, right?
Right. And recidivists and psychopaths, they'll lie at will anyway. They'll even pretend to be hypnotized. You cannot force someone to tell the truth under hypnosis. There's absolutely no way of doing it, and they still have the choice. In fact, when I was a therapist, somebody would come into the office, okay, I want to do this and this, and will you use hypnosis? Yes. What are you going to ask me? I'm not going to ask you anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in your personal life. And if you're going to reveal something, you'll do it now. You're not going to do it under hypnosis because you won't want to. You simply will not do it. Anyway, we've said enough on that. We really need to...
There's one other quick point I want to make. This is just a general idea around logic and thinking, too. So when somebody proposes that, hey, this method can do the following... You don't have to accept that. That has to be proven. You don't accept the argument and then prove that it's not true. You must prove that it is true.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's just general logic. So,
and again, the burden of proof is always on the one who makes the assertion.
Right.
This
is my point.
The case. Yeah.
So
yeah.
if you can demonstrate demonstrate in entertainment purposes that a person will appear to not be able to lie, that is not evidence that it's true in a forensic case.
Right.
It still would need to be proven.
Not at all.
So,
It's not the same.
To the best of my knowledge,
everything in hypnosis is context-driven. And a forensic hypnosis case, you're not going to be working probably. I mean, I've only hypnotized a murderer once, to the best of my knowledge. But you cannot force people to reveal things they don't want to reveal. We got to go to a commercial break. So, Chris, here we go.
Tonight on the Dallas-Fort Worth Network, it's the Honey Hallmark Show. After several years off the air, we return with a brand new series of zany adventure. Honey, honey Hallmark, the girl who loves greeting cards. She's honey, honey Hallmark, the girl who loves greeting cards. She's got frizzy red hair and she drives a school bus, but she's no different than the rest of us. It's honey, honey Hallmark, the girl who loves greeting cards. The girl who loves greeting cards. She's the girl who loves greeting cards. In tonight's episode, Honey is pasting a series of cat-related birthday cards to her window when she sees a UFO. Honey calls the police and reports it to the mayor's office, and they say it's a federal disclosure issue. Imagine all the zany fun that develops when Honey drives to Area 51 to post a complaint in person, and all the hilarity that ensues when her bus blows a tire, goes off the road, fills up with rattlesnakes, and gets sprayed down with anti-radiation coating, and she has to flee a dozen gray aliens on foot through the scalding hot Nevada desert. The Honey Hallmark Show, Season 9, tonight on the Rendlesham Forest Network.
Let's talk about systems versus goals. I think this is fascinating. This was a breakthrough for me when I read it in that reframing book.
Yeah, I really like it. We were introduced to the reframe again through Scott's book, Reframe Your Brain, and he talked about the idea that goals are fine. Like, I want to be 165 pounds. Okay, that's a goal. What about instead framing it as a system so that you'll get to the goal? And I think you don't throw away the goal, but you need to have a system to reach the goal.
Well, if the focus is on the goal, every day you're not hitting it, you're a loser.
Yeah, you're a loser. You didn't do your workout today.
So you build in a system. So instead of, I got to get this weight down, I got to do this. No, the system is, in my own case, I do combat conditioning, takes about half an hour, stretch out, do some yoga stretch, then go do power walks. That's the system. And I'll track it every now and then, I'll weigh in. But that in and of itself is making the changes for me without focusing on some nebulous goal or outcome.
Yeah. So let's talk about some systems that we use in our lives.
Well, could be anything, really.
Yeah.
So say it's a relationship. Instead of, I want us to get along better. We've got to get along better. You start thinking, what system can I build in that I'm putting my partner first? Am I preparing food? Am I doing something every week? Am I mentioning these points all the time? It's an ongoing thing, like a mechanism that runs and brings the results on its own.
And actually, that's true for any relationship, too. It doesn't have to be your spouse or anything. Like, for example, in our business and friendship relationship, well, which are really overlapped so much,
right?
We have systems for even these podcasts, right? It used to be that, oh, well, we have a goal that every 2 weeks we're going to put an episode,
Right.
but we'd get distracted and realize, oh, wait a second, we just failed, and we've gone now 3 weeks without an episode. And sometimes a few years ago it was before, and now we made it a system where we just block out a certain amount of time every second Friday.
I write it.
And we record these, and you write them, and you write the show notes. And I used to do all the audio editing, and now Ross is doing them as a video, which is way better because it's amazing. First of all, he's a better editor than me because he actually knows what he's doing. And I get to be on camera instead of just microphone and audio.
That's right. And also, our friendship continues because the end of each Friday or Thursday,
we have a system.
Week, the system is to go to Colonel Bastard's for
and
lunch.
have lunch, yes.
And just eat off and have a glass of wine.
Yes,
and that's a system, too. Now,
and we also have our system that involves, we don't have a goal of, we got to come up with a podcast idea. We have a constant running list of ideas and a team, and we just decide spur of the moment. This is what we're doing the podcast on. No pressure. It just happens. And the system includes that if we don't have a specific idea that works for us, we just literally make one up on the fly. And that's fine.
And that's part of the system, too. Yeah, and the thing of using this as an exercise system, a health system, really, because it's engaging how I eat as well.
Yeah. What's your system for being a healthy person?
I don't eat breakfast ever.
Okay. Yeah.
And I either eat a small protein-based lunch or no lunch and then have a big honking supper afterwards.
Yeah.
And I stop eating right at supper time. I don't snack afterwards. I don't eat bags of chips.
And that works for you.
It works very well.
Yeah.
It's got my weight down 14 pounds since Nevada.
And we can expand that a little bit, too, into exercise and also everything.
What about mental health? What's your mental health system?
Laughing
a lot, getting out in the woods, walking, doing things to freshen your brain.
Yeah, my systems for mental health would certainly include laughing a lot, focusing on what I like in life and what I want to have happen, not focusing on
what you're trying to avoid.
What went poorly today what did I fail at today. No, what am I looking forward to? Things that you're looking forward to are great for your mental health. And then when it comes to the physical side of things, like physical body and exercise and all that, muscle mass and staying fit and shape and all that, what works for me is same thing. I don't eat in the morning. I typically eat my first meal around noon or maybe 1 p.m. Make sure that it's a high. So part of the system would be protein focus.
Yeah.
Right. And then part of the system would also now be I'm in a weight loss mode. I'm dropping some body fat because I'm not quite super thrilled with having put a little bit on, not much, but I have high standards for myself. One of them is satiety. So the system would include eating a protein-rich meal until I'm comfortable. So I'm not gonna.
That's the key. Isn't
I'm not
it?
gonna
To
stuff
stop
myself and be like, I have to eat it because it's in front of me. No, I can. The other night, for example, my wife made this amazing salsa chicken dish. It was just chicken thighs baked in the oven with fresh salsa and some Parmesan cheese.
Sounds pretty good. She gave us some salsa, which is amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. You know what? I put 5 chicken thighs and I ate 3 of them. And I'm going, you know what?
Greedy bastard.
I'm fine right now. I'm going to put these away and I'll probably eat them later, which is where I differ from you a little bit. I don't stop eating usually around 6:30 or 7. Sometimes I might be hungry at 8:30 and I'll just eat then, and that's totally fine.
Okay, yeah. In my own case, I stop then because I've discovered because protein takes time to metabolize, it takes time to get my appetite turned off.
Yeah.
And if I just keep eating, and you said, stop when you've had enough. If I keep eating because I don't feel full yet, I've learned part of my system is to stop eating and wait for an hour.
Yes.
And by then it's just gone. There's no hunger anymore. The protein is kicked in. We're doing it with our cat, Guy, here. He's eating 5 times a day now instead of 3. And he gets his half order of food. We call it one mouse. A cat eats 4 to 5 mice a day. Gets his first one. And he's pissed off for like an hour yelling at us. And then all of a sudden it all kicks in. He goes, I guess I'm not hungry after all.
Yeah.
It's great.
Isn't it awesome? All right.
Now, we have one more point to touch here, which is someone asked, what is a post-hypnotic suggestion and how does it differ from continuance of suggestion?
Yeah, let's wrap up on this. I think that's a great one. So the idea being, we have this idea of hypnotic suggestions, right? So if somebody is in trance and you give them a suggestion like, and you're feeling wonderful, when you come back from this trance, you're going to notice how good you feel and you'll experience all of this motivation towards whatever your goals were, et cetera, et cetera. That versus And the next time that you see the clock and it says 6 o'clock, you're going to realize that it's time to go exercise or whatever the thing is that they wanted. So what's the difference between giving a suggestion in trance versus a post-hypnotic suggestion?
Okay, well, the two are continuance of suggestion versus post-hypnotic. Continuance of suggestion, you give them the suggestion in trance, they bring it out with them. So and you're feeling more positive. You're feeling amazing. You come back and you go, yeah, I feel amazing. The post-hypnotic is always triggered either by a temporal signal or some other external indicator. So a temporal one is a time signal. So in 2 minutes, you'll do this, or on July the 5th, you will do this. It's always a time, a specific time. The other one, it can be anything. The next time your wife looks at you, you will say this, or
like in your show, when you say, is it a full moon tonight? And the person goes, oh. Yeah.
Or every time I snap my fingers twice, somebody will pinch you once on the butt.
Right.
That's a very specific post-hypnotic. The difference is you can do continuance of suggestion in a very light trance.
Right.
But you need a deep enough trance, generally somnambulism, not always, for post-hypnotic work, because post-hypnotic suggestions work best when the person is in a deep trance because you want them to have an amnestic loop for it.
Okay.
I got a cough here.
Uh-oh.
There we are.
There
Drink
we go.
Water. Go
we
ahead.
won't even edit that out.
No, we're not going to edit that
Here's
out.
what I'll say then. So post-hypnotic sort of makes people think after the hypnosis.
Right.
But in the case of a stage hypnosis show, you're offering post-hypnotic suggestions that still fire during the show, just after that particular
during the show, but not in trance. Right.
Yeah, well, they're hypnotized, but
Sort
they're
of.
not acting hypnotized at the time.
Well, even
you're
when you
typically
release
firing
them, they're all sitting there normal, talking normally. That's when I'm firing post-hypnotics, or was when I did that. Yeah.
Exactly. So
yes,
there's
exactly,
this
yes.
in and out of trance all the way through the show. So they're in trance, you're installing stuff, then they seem to be wide awake, and then you're firing a few things.
Is anyone ever wide awake? I mean, who knows?
What does it mean, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly, the post-hypnotic stuff, again, the reason you want amnesia for it is then you can't consciously resist it or attempt to interfere. Remember I said the very first post-hypnotic suggestion I ever gave was to a friend of mine, when you're waking, you'll get the irresistible urge to touch yourself on the head. I mean, stupid suggestion.
What did he do again?
And he sat there and he said,
I know you're waiting.
I know what you're doing. He said, you're waiting for me to touch myself on the head. I said, fine. He said, it's not going to work. I said, that's okay. Because he remembered it.
Yeah.
But it still was overwhelming. He said, look, okay, get off my case. I've done it.
That's
crazy stuff.
The cognitive dissonance.
Which brings us to the empowering questions, Chris. So why don't you take that away?
Yeah, and before I read the empowering question, I'll just remind you that inside of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, we have the full 9-video series, the director's cut, which deconstructs Mike's stage hypnosis show. So if you're interested in the idea of post-hypnotics and firing them in entertainment, check that out. You want to join the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. So let me find. There we go. Here we go. What is the greatest reframe I can apply right now to my life? And what systems will I create to ensure that goals and failure become a thing of the past?
Nice. Ask yourself that one. And I've got a quick MetaFive, and it's my dad's eccentricities, which still amaze me. I knew he was eccentric early on. It sort of explains a lot of my own ludicrous behavior, but I admit it, so it's okay. My dad would go up to our cabin. We'd go up. We had a cabin on the Trent River, and every week we get the little 10 horsepower motor, drive across the Trent River, and he'd every week without fail, Chris, we had all luggage and everything. Me, my mom, and him are going across, and he would hit this underwater reef every week and break the shear pin without fail.
Oh.
And here's the eccentricity. He's going across and bang! And he'd always get this puzzled look like,
what is that?
I say, why are you doing it? It's the billionth time this is happening. It always looks like, oh, it's unusual. That was eccentric, but his eccentricity around tea, it drives my wife nuts. She thinks I'm getting it too. Drinking tea. Remember I told you he had a slide rule and he was checking to see the date that he would drink his last millionth cup of tea. But I didn't tell you this one. He fixed everything at home. We had a big Clairtone stereo with doors that would close over the speakers. There's a record player in it and a place for your records and FM radio. And he always had to fix it because it was always screwing up. One year, he went to fix it again, pulled it out from the wall, took the back off. And inside was a china cup and saucer, a fossilized cup of tea that he'd walled up in the back of it the last time he fixed it and hadn't noticed. It's like Edgar Allan Poe. Eccentric? Yeah, he was a great guy. I miss him a lot.
This has been episode 239 of the Brain Software Podcast. Whether you're listening to it on a podcast app or if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or subscribe to the podcast in the app. Leave us a review. That would be awesome. Check out our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. If you want to come to Toronto, like we mentioned earlier in the episode, we've got our class coming up. Yeah, there's a few seats left, and it's going to be ridiculous fun. You're going to be there, and we're going to hang out. It's going to be awesome. So we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again, and
good night.